Okay, welcome everybody. We are here with Dalton Kahl. He is a student at the University of South Carolina, specifically the Darla Moore School of Business. And we're going to talk about the Freshman Finance Scholars Program. This is a great program designed for freshmen, which covers a variety of coursework, and live case studies, involvement with mentorships, and other key networking activities in order to prepare students for not just high trajectory careers in finance, but also, of course, specifically the sophomore year recruiting season. It's an offshoot of their larger club, student club, which is called the Carolina Finance and Investment Association. So welcome, Dalton.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So why don't you just kick us off and tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background, and then tell us how did the Freshman Finance Academy get started?
Yeah, of course. So, like you said, my name is Dalton Kahl. Originally from Columbia, South Carolina, and decided to come to the University of South Carolina, so I didn't go too far for school. Current finance major and junior here in the Darla Moore School of Business. Um, I'm pretty involved on campus with things like the Carolina Finance Investment Association, like you said, as well as our mock investment fund, our money managed investment fund, and other ancillary stuff. Um, and through that, I've had some other relevant experience, including being an Adventis trainer myself. It's been very impactful for me and my relevant internships experience. Previously worked at the state pension fund for the state of South Carolina, where we managed $50 billion in assets. And yeah, so the Freshman Finance Academy began last year, my sophomore year, and it was essentially the brainchild of the former Carolina Finance and Investment Association president and vice president. And they just came to the consensus that with finance recruiting timelines becoming so much earlier and earlier every year, that there would be significant value add if we could have freshmen getting a little bit more savvy on things like networking, what does a finance career look like, and other relevant technical resources. So they took the inaugural class of freshmen last fall, and then took them through their caseload and their learning experience this past spring. And since coming on campus this fall, I have since taken over as the Vice President of Education for the Freshman Finance Academy.
Okay, nice. Hey, critical role, right? Success in that area is all about training, development, education, building new skills, right? So that's a great, really critical position to be. You're in a spot to make a big impact, I think, on a lot of students. So that's great to hear. Well, so yeah, let's dig in. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Freshman Finance Academy. So again, it is a subsection, a subunit of the larger student run program, and it can also prepare folks for the Finance Scholars Program, which is run by the university, is faculty led, right? That's a formal university program. That's a selective scholars program that starts in sophomore year. So it's pretty cool how it sounds like the FFA was really created to front load some of the foundational finance education to get folks up to speed faster. Yes, to respond to the shortening of the recruiting timeline, but also to promote finance education and give folks who know that that's the direction they want to go, at least as a first step, additional resources than what they had before. So that's great. That's great. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about the program. How do you guys run the application process? What's all involved in the application process, and how do you select the folks who ultimately get in?
Yeah, so the application process is pretty standard, at least for selective clubs at other universities. The first round starts with a statement of interest as well as just a resume. And given that they're freshmen, we're not looking for anything outstanding. Most of them don't have relevant experience. Most of them, or none of them have GPAs yet, obviously. But the main thing that we're looking for is kind of just, a demonstrated interest in finance. I mean, for one, being a freshman, fall semester freshman, and applying to something like this already shows a large amount of initiative in itself. But also those that can speak highly of why they want to do a finance career and what interests them in finance. is definitely something we're looking for. From then on out, we do a interview process where myself and other CFI executive members will just sit down with them, just ask them a couple behavioral questions and like really just try to poke into what interests them about finance, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is prime them, and get them to the point where they can become successful finance, have a successful finance career. And so, we're not doing them a good service if they're, on the fence about finance, or maybe they want to do supply chain, and then we elect them into the club, and they're kind of on the fence about it. So, really
Yeah.
looking for that demonstrated finance interest, and from there on out, they'll, obviously find out whether they've been selected into the cohort or not. We select cohorts of about 20 each year, and then once they come onto campus, their spring semester of their freshman year is when we start with the curriculum.
Yep. Well, it's a good point. Or in terms of folks, if you do want to apply for one of these programs across a number of these different programs across the nation, one of the most important things you've got to demonstrate is that dedication to the finance direction. So, like you said, it's not necessarily about having a perfect test score or perfect grades, because you're still so early in the university, in the undergraduate curriculum, but it's about proving qualitatively, right? Why is finance the right fit for you, right? Why are you so dedicated? Prove it through your actions. And I think that there's a lot of things that people can do that they probably haven't considered. Um, you know, looking for things like I guess it probably isn't an internship, but maybe think about what did you do in high school? I think one of the classic things that I like to see, which is hard to do and not everyone can do it, but did you have involvement with small business, or start a small lawn care business or something because you're curious about the finance and revenue and costs? That's what's one way you can sort of prove that. Do you guys see any folks? I guess but why don't you tell me instead of me telling you? You tell me what are some of the things that stand out to you as being key ways to demonstrate that dedication to the finance pathway.
Yeah, no, we've seen kids come through where they've started like shoe reselling businesses in high
Yeah.
school. I
Okay.
think
There
one
you go.
kid
Like
had them.
reselling Air Jordans that have
Yeah,
only been worn like 4 times.
yep, yeah.
Nice.
One kid did that. We've had people come through with like small photography businesses, and
Hmm.
it's not even that. We've had people come through like myself even who worked construction in high school, and they said,
Yeah.
I learned a lot about hard work and dedication, and I'm also pretty good with numbers, and I think that finance, given it's a fast-paced career field, at least high finances, I can apply the lessons I learned from construction into a math-related kind of finance field, and I think it's really just about being able to articulate your story. It's
Right.
not so much about your experiences, but obviously, some kids did, like FBLA and DECA and other business-related programs in high school as well.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Well, I think even touching any kind of industry, even, I think that's one of the things that I would want to recommend to people if we're thinking about folks who are applying to these programs or creating these programs. Even if you just did something like worked at a fast food restaurant, and just it got me thinking about, I worked the register, and it got me thinking about, what's the revenue per day, and what are our costs, and how can that add up per month, and I don't know, just proves, just show that is intriguing and interesting for you. It doesn't have to be that you had some sort of finance internship. So there's a lot of ways to do it. Okay. Well, so when you get this group together, you said you bring in around 20 students, plus or minus, and then you get them into the curriculum. Talk us a little bit more about what's the timeline of that curriculum, when does it start, and what are some of the key milestones that people hit throughout the program as they learn and develop.
Yeah, so essentially starts right when they get back to campus. So January, like early to late January, of their spring semester of their freshman year.
Yep.
And it essentially goes the entire semester, ending with the final capstone project that I'll touch on later. And it's really split into two segments. The first half of the program is really more qualitative based. This is where we teach them about, what are careers in finance, like what can you do with a finance degree, and just more some of the soft skills, things like how to network, how to get your resume, like up to par. A lot of kids don't have LinkedIn's their freshman year, and giving them LinkedIn's. And we actually pair them with alumni as well, an alumni mentor who is a alumni at the University of South Carolina who is currently working in investment banking or like an adjacent finance career, um, where they can kind of like get those reps in and learn how to network. So that's the first half. And then
Hmm.
the second half is where we have prepared presentations for them, where we kind of walk them step by step through an intuitive process about, starting with the basics of accounting and like financial accounting, working them all the way up to valuation and financial modeling, with the end goal being that capstone project, like I mentioned, which is essentially a sell side M&A pitch, which they actually deliver to finance faculty here on campus.
Gotcha. Yeah, let's dig into this a little bit because it's a great curriculum. You've got a lot of really important pieces there. So I like how you said you introduce folks to an alumni finance mentor. I'm so you're the first group I've talked to that actually pairs people with graduates, people actually in industry. Have you guys run into now? I can certainly see the benefit there. That's pretty clear. Have you run into any challenges or drawbacks? I have to imagine those folks aren't like super available.
Yeah. I can't speak to last year and how that went with the academy, but I can speak to my own experiences where I've had mentors through the business school, through other organizations, like working in investment banking and related fields. And I know I've had to get on the phone with people at 11 at night or
Yeah,
talk to them on Thanksgiving, stuff like that, just to, especially when you have things like interviews coming up or you're deep in recruiting season and you really just want to get on the phone and get some advice.
yeah.
I can imagine how that's definitely um, a factor. But
Yeah, well,
most of them.
but it's also just good training, right? Like, hey,
Yep,
you've got to figure out a way to get a hold of this person who's not very available. Like that,
definitely,
there's actually good training of being an investment banker because there's going to be lots of folks like that you're going to try to
definitely.
connect with. That's a good point. Have you guys considered also like doing like a double pairing, meaning like pairing them also with like a senior or has already won the full time role?
I don't believe that was part of the curriculum this past year. And we're always thinking of ways to improve, and I could definitely see something like that happening. We do heavily encourage them to do that, though. Those of which who are interested in things
Yeah, or
like,
if not a formal pairing, just networking. Make sure um, that's a great starting place to network, right? Is people
yeah,
who are already at the university. You're already walking past each other in the hallways. How easy is that to sit down for a coffee chat? I'm sure you guys, no
yeah.
question, you
We
guys
always
do that.
we always tell them to start low and go high. So we
Yeah,
tell them to
the
start
ladder,
with.
one step at a time, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
they start with the senior, and then maybe that senior has contacts for them for where they just interned, and then they talk to an analyst, and with the end goal maybe being touching the MD. But
Yep. Well, at some point you got to get there, but that'll be probably sophomore year. Hope
yeah,
before right, not too far before real interviews. Um, So I really love to hear that you guys have a capstone project built in there, what I would call a capstone project coming from kind of my training background, where you're actually presenting an M&A oriented deck um, to finance professors. So tell me a little bit more about that. Like what type of presentation in it, and what are some of the key pieces of the presentation, and how is it evaluated?
yeah, for sure. So I'll just speak to what happened this previous semester.
Yeah.
We gave them the option to pick any publicly traded company that they wanted to, as a group. So they all ended up electing Skechers, who coincidentally enough ended up being acquired a couple months after the pitch actually went through. But they picked the company, and then we gave them access or just showed them how to access SEC Edgar and then Bloomberg and Capital IQ, and
Yep.
simply said, have at it. Of course, we kind of like went them through like our expectations, what we wanted to see, but essentially told them, we want to see like take your lens as a banker, and think about, okay, what is this company worth? So we were looking at things like, all right, model out their revenues, obviously model out their balance sheet, their income statement, all of that, and then work in valuation methodologies. So we were looking for precedents, comparable companies analysis, DCF, and I think some groups even
Right.
looked at LBO, with the end goal being, okay, now like narrow down a select group of like firms that could be obviously like target Skechers as an acquisition. So I
Hmm.
believe one group actually
Oh,
had.
like propose different potential buyers.
Correct. Yeah. So a lot of groups had, like KKR and Blackstone on there, but some got a little bit more niche and had like L. Catterton and other large buyout firms on there.
Sure. Absolutely. Um, yeah, that's great. That's such a valuable exercise to go through the process of putting that together and actually standing in front of in front of it and pitching and getting feedback. Can't emphasize that enough. That's just there's no substitute for it as opposed to like listening to lectures or things like that. You mentioned a lot of modeling involved in that capstone project, rightly so, right? We want to put together that valuation presentation and estimate what are some likely prices. What type of technical preparation do you help folks go through in order to prepare them for that for the technical pieces of that capstone project, including the financial modeling?
Yeah, we give them a brief presentation on, various valuation methods and like pro forma income statements and other, related schedules and the three financial statements, as well as a brief walkthrough evaluation. But I know a handful of the Freshman Finance Academy um, cohort members actually had taken the Adventis financial modeling program prior to joining the academy or while they were in the academy as well.
Hmm.
And it was funny because you could really tell who had done the boot camp or had gotten certified and who had not.
Right.
You
Who had completed the Adventis program versus those who hadn't?
Yes, obviously they all had completed and sat through the modeling exercises we had done with the cohort, but
Right.
some had done Adventis, some had not. And I'll pick on this one kid. I won't say his name, but he was certified. I believe he was like level two certified already as a freshman, and a lot of his cohort members were saying like, "Oh, like where's so and so? Like I wish he was here. He could probably tell me how to model this out. Like he knows like Excel like the back of his hand, whatever." So definitely a lot of value added from Adventis. And you could like getting those modeling reps in, especially so early, was like paramount for them, and you could really see it shine through in their presentation and their valuation as well.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, helping those folks build hard skills. But it sounds like you guys don't require the Adventis program. Do you offer it? You just offer it to them as recommended as a resource or as a helpful, process.
Yeah, definitely highly recommended for sure. And partnership could be something that we could explore later down the road, for sure. But no, definitely highly recommended. Highly recommended for the scholars program as well as the fact that the University of South Carolina is the partner university for Adventis.
Yep.
So it's always being promoted on campus.
Absolutely. Okay. So, because yeah, you guys do such a good job with a lot of the qualitative stuff, right? With the networking, the mentorship, those weekly courses, and the capstone project. It's just, and then the technical prep. It all really complements each other really well. So as you kind of move on, so as they move out of the freshman finance academy, right there, maybe they do an internship over the summer, maybe they don't. What's on the menu then for them as they come in sophomore year? Are they, they're applying to maybe the finance scholars program? They're getting involved in CFIA. What does that look like?
Yeah, we have a couple of things that we at least expect of them and definitely encourage them to do. Um, So we give them a lot of unique opportunities. This fall, we're giving them the opportunity to visit a lot of the banks in Charlotte that we have alumni at. So in the coming weeks, we'll be visiting Bank of America, Truist, and Jefferies as part of the Freshman Finance Academy cohort, and just letting them, to networking sessions, learn a little bit more about the industry, and learn from alumni.
Mm.
We're also working on building out an investment banking workshop for them. So those that are interested in investment banking as a career, similarly modeled to Indiana University Kelley and their business school and how they run their IBW, kind of giving them those who want to opt into the program, want to pursue investment banking, the option to, sit down with a 400 question guide and take quizzes and keep themselves accountable to just getting that much more technical prep and value added there. As well as
And wait, if I can interrupt, when is the trip to Charlotte?
it's this Friday.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, okay. So it is in the beginning of their sophomore year?
Yep.
It's not at the okay, that makes sense. Okay,
Yep.
great, great.
Yep.
Continue,
So
continue. Sorry. No,
there you
that's
go.
awesome that you guys layered that in. I think there's no substitute for being boots on the ground and actually shaking bankers' hands.
Yeah.
You've got to get out there and do it.
No, very excited for them. We haven't done something like this at the university before COVID.
Right.
And it's not very commonly seen, at least down here in the South. I know some Ivy schools might do this, but very
Yeah.
excited for them to do this. Um,
Well, it's
And then as
definitely
well as
common. The visits, I would definitely say, I see it in the Midwest, of course, in the Northeast. A lot of the schools I talk to are going to do a New York City visit. Have you guys thought about? Obviously, Charlotte's like you got to take advantage of it because of the proximity. It's not that far away. Great city, great finance city. Have you guys thought about doing a New York City trip as well, or a Chicago trip?
I know prior to COVID, the Carolina Finance Scholars cohort used to take a New York City trip, but I don't think it's been on the radar of anyone since COVID.
Yeah,
But definitely
makes
something
sense.
that I know personally I would love to see happen again. I think, like you mentioned, it's incredible just to actually shake someone's hand and meet them in person builds just a whole deeper connection there.
Yep, absolutely. But continue. I interrupted you. So
Oh yeah, and then we obviously expect them to stay in touch, attend CFIA meetings regularly,
yeah,
and obviously we're heavily invested in their success as well. So we're always helping them if they want the interview prep, looking for internships, things like that. But um, in the sophomore fall, it's definitely more leaning into the recruiting's about to start. Here's how we can help you, and it's a little bit less structured, but.
gotcha. And as you think about, yes, the Freshman Finance Academy, but also the broader student-led club, what are some of the key things you guys do in terms of long-term sustainment of the club's mission and values and education approach? How do you guys make sure that each new class that comes in, you're passing off the torch and things? Because it's just a common challenge I've heard of a lot of student clubs. It's difficult to maintain that institutional knowledge and that same energy from group to group.
I'd say it's two things. I'd say one, I think being coming from the University of South Carolina, obviously we're not the most prestigious school or a target school by any means, but I think we have such a great alumni network. I know with networking, everyone who I reached out to that was a USC alum was more than happy to hop on the phone with me. And they're always coming back to campus to speak to current students and do networking events and take kids out to dinner and things like that. So that's great, and that's kept the club running for sure. We have routine visits from a lot of the regular top investment banks, as well as you mentioned like passing the torch on. And I guess as someone who's had the torch passed to them, I can't really speak to it myself, but what I can imagine, what was seen in me, is just someone who's like invested into giving back to younger students and are also like deeply involved in the business school, whether that be through a variety of things. So, like for example, for myself, I think a big thing that stood out for the current exec as to why they would, pass the torch to me was the fact I was the Adventis trainer, and I was, routinely educating underclassmen about like things in the financial career field and technical prep and things like that, as well as some of my other involvements on campus. And definitely looking for people that are well involved and are willing to give back, no matter where they might have ended up for their junior summer internship or what career field they may be going into.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's just a common challenge, and it sounds like you guys got a great approach to it. It's so much about really a lot of times a larger university, not just larger university culture, but also the culture of your business, the college of business, or the the business school as well. So great to hear. Uh, how have you guys worked with professors and the faculty? I know you've got faculty involvement for your capstone program, capstone project with the pitch exercise. In what other ways do you guys seek out and receive support from faculty?
Faculty more or less have a kind of hands-off approach to CFA for the most part. It's mostly student run. I do know they'll, if we have like a large amount of speakers coming down, like they'll attend the meeting,
Yeah,
and things like that. But for the most part, it's independent of faculty. Whole purpose being, since we already have the Carolina Finance Scholars, a cohort that runs in the fall for sophomores,
right.
that's more of the faculty-led program. But the faculty are also great. They do a lot of supplemental stuff that's kind of tied in with CFIA. I know like I'll email faculty when I have a question about CFIA, and faculty will email me when they have like an internship opportunity that an alumni reach out to them with, things like that.
Yeah,
We actually have like a thing on campus that's run by the finance department, but largely marketed by CFIA. It's called Finance Friday, and it's when we have essentially our most distinguished alumni across investment banking, private equity, private credit, hedge funds, asset management, consulting, all these different careers. They all fly down and essentially just hop on a panel and have students ask them questions, learn about their careers, and it's a really great event. And yeah, definitely work in tandem.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I like to ask because I think there's definitely a line. It's a student organization. You want to keep it student led, so we don't want some large amount of faculty influence. And I'm sure they have other work to do as well. But I know it's also they're a great resource to tap into, and so it's kind of more about thinking make sure you guys know like what are the different expertise that the faculty members have, whether that's an industry, do they have industry experience, maybe they do consulting, or maybe they have again a research focus that is really relevant to you guys, so they can do lunch and learns, and that sort of thing is kind of what I had in mind.
Yeah, 100%. No, they're definitely involved, and they're more than happy when we have things like the Charlotte Bank trip coming up. They were more than happy to
Hmm.
sit down with me and arrange the funding and actually getting funding from the business school. So the
Oh,
academy
wow.
members didn't even have to pay out of pocket for anything like transportation.
Wow,
So they're definitely very receptive on that end.
can't complain about that.
No, you cannot.
Good stuff. All right, Dalton. No, this is great. Well, look, I think you guys got a great program over there. A lot of folks should be able to get a lot of valuable nuggets from this discussion. The way you guys have structured this is unique. We've talked to different organizations. Whether it's a purely a school university run initiative from staff, to a purely student run initiative, to where you guys have created this academy within the larger student club. It's That's unique, and I think it's powerful, and it really speaks to the strength of the overall CFIA organization, which just seems like a really strong organization that I know folks can learn from.
Yeah, 100%.
So, okay. Well, thanks for your time. This has been great. We appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Of course, thank you, Ben.
All right.
Have a good day.